Thank you, Sheena. The House Judiciary Committee is hearing several bills concerning firearms, including a bill that would restrict possession and sale of new assault weapons. Some protesters have already begun to gather outside the State House as the hearings are set to begin. Eyewitness News reporter Kim Kalunian is at the State House now with the latest. Kim?
Well, Mike, there is no doubt that gun control has been one of the hottest topics here for the General Assembly this session. Today, no different. The State House is once again packed with people. The vast majority of those folks once again wearing yellow T-shirts to signify their support of the Second Amendment. Far fewer folks here today are wearing those orange and red T-shirts, those folks in favor of stricter gun control laws. Now, some of the bills up for debate tonight before the House Judiciary Committee include a ban on so-called assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines. There is also a bill that would raise the legal age people are allowed to purchase rifles or shotguns from 18 to 21. We spoke with folks who are here to show their opposition to these bills, as well as a woman who was teaching inside a Newtown middle school on the day of the Sandy Hook shooting.
I retired from teaching in 2014. After 32 years of teaching, I left something I loved, was to prevent something like this from happening to a community. The devastating effects of gun violence to a community is you know, a forever thing.
You know, people would know, oh, okay, yes, everybody knows that guns are bad. But in the grand scheme of things, it's only bad in the wrong hands. And taking guns from law-abiding citizens is not going to help stop the criminals.
And we are expecting to hear hours of testimony again tonight before the House Judiciary Committee. We will be bringing you another live update here from the State House on Eyewitness News at 6 o'clock. For now, reporting live, I'm Kim Kalunian, Eyewitness News.
Right now, we're tracking developing news at the State House. A huge crowd of Second Amendment supporters have once again gathered at the State House as lawmakers take up several gun-related bills.
Eyewitness News reporter Kim Kalunian joins us now live from the State House with an update. Kim?
Well, Mike and Shannon, another night here at the State House, and there are more gun control bills on the agenda, which means the hallways here are packed once again. Vast majority of the people here this evening are folks wearing yellow T-shirts to signify their support of the Second Amendment. A smaller contingent of folks wearing orange and red to show they're in favor of these stronger gun control laws. Now, there are multiple gun-related bills before the House Judiciary Committee tonight. One would seek the ban of the sale of so-called assault-style weapons and limit magazine capacity. Other bills would raise the legal age to buy a rifle or shotgun from 18 to 21. Now, advocates of these bills say that they will make the community safer, but gun proponents say they will only harm law-abiding citizens.
They're taking away everything from us. You know, they're going to go after the magazine capacities. Magazine capacity doesn't change anything. If you tell me I can't have a 30-round magazine, we'll have 310s. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't affect anything. It's our rights.
I'm not here to talk about how many mass shootings there are. Everyone knows those facts. I'm here to talk about my personal experience of things I've heard teachers say or things I hear my friends say about my school being next or about active shooter drills, things like that, that a lot of people don't realize are happening in high schools now.
And that hearing before the House Judiciary Committee is underway. We will be heading in there and bring you more live coverage tonight on Eyewitness News at 10 and 11. For now, reporting live at the State House, I'm Kim Kalunian, Eyewitness News.